So now, again, we're still using quad shapes here. So that gives a nice curve. The things get tricky if you want to add elevation here. You'd think you can do this with the displacement tool, but actually no, not really. It doesn't work very well because displacement, the way the Valve's made their displacement tool, it's really good at creating organic shapes like cliffs and hills and stuff, but it doesn't work very well if you want to displace something in precise geometric terms. So now I'm going to talk to you about detailed vertex manipulation. So I wanted this curve to drop 512 units. So I created this block here. Made sure, oh no, actually I'm dropping at 256. So I dropped at 256 units. And I wanted the top, like the leading edge, to be at the top and the bottom edge to be at the bottom. So I know now that the plane of my road is going to be exactly 256. What I did is, first of all, I dropped everything. It's better to drop things. I did it as steps, as you can see. I also found when I got to the end, there wasn't quite, I was dropping each piece 32, because I simply just, I got 8 pieces, 256 divided by 8 is 32, but for some reason it didn't work out precisely. There was a remainder, so I split that up. I adjusted it like 2 units or so. Anyway, I got this to a shape where I was happy. Then what I did, and this is where you're getting into the geometry manipulation, I cut these pieces into triangles. So, and it's very precise. There's a reason why. So I have my unit set, my snapping grid set down to 1 unit. Actually, I don't have it at 1. Let's take it to 1. Brought this down to here. Made sure I was just cutting in half. I don't want to lose a piece. And I did that. And I did the same thing with all the curb pieces as well. The other thing I did is I made sure when I cut those that the interior planes were both Nodraw, had the Nodraw surface, because I don't want to create, I don't want textured planes down here, because it increases your graphics, the size of your mount and all that. You don't want this. It's just more stuff for your video card render, more shadow memory, etc., etc. So that's what I did, and I dropped all of these pieces and so on and so forth. The next step, this is where I had it done, and I had all the pieces cut. Now, why do I cut these into triangles? That's what my objective is. I want all these pieces to be triangles, and it's simply because if I were to take, for the next step, if I were going to take this piece here and drop it like that, this is what I'm ultimately going to be doing here. What I've created here is an invalid solid. It's a square, but because the corners aren't 90 degree, they aren't 90 degrees, not here. Because they're not 90 degrees, as soon as I drop it, you can sort of see the texture here. I've created I've bent it, I've warped it. So if I reload this map, the hammer won't load the solid. It'll say that it's invalid. It'll give me a message that says I've got X number of invalid solids. So that's why you've got to cut these things up into triangles, because a triangle when you manipulate a triangle and like drop it down, it's always going to be, because it's only got 3 points, no matter what you do with this plane as a triangle, it will always, the shape, the overall block will remain solid. So this is the next step that I did, is I grabbed the edges, and I wanted to keep this basic thickness, and what I did is I was taking each of these rectangular sections and dropping the far edge down to the close edge of the next piece. So for this, I'll do the same thing. And then I grab this guy. I'm always doing the edges. I don't want to manipulate individual corners. And I just kept going. And I did the same thing for these. Whoops. And using the front edge as my guide, like the front edge, or the leading edge of the next piece down, that's my reference point. So I kept doing that, as you could see, until I was done. That left me with this.